You don't always see hatred coming, because the real kind doesn't scream. It smiles. It plays nice in public, but sharpens its knives in private. Unlike anger, which is loud and momentary, true hatred is cold, calculated, and quiet. It shows up as subtle sabotage, disguised support, or suspicious silence when you succeed. The damage it causes isn't always obvious. At first it creeps in slowly, poisoning your peace and turning your world upside down before you even realize what's happening. And the worst part, you might blame yourself. You'll wonder why certain people constantly create conflict around you, make you doubt your instincts, or drain your energy, but never once suspect that what you're actually dealing with is hatred in disguise. In this video, we'll expose 5 powerful signs that someone genuinely hates you. These aren't one-time behaviors, they're consistent patterns with serious consequences. If you want to protect your mental space, your relationships, and your emotional resilience, you need to recognize these signs early. So stay focused. What you learn today could save you years of confusion, betrayal, and regret. Let's begin. Have you ever noticed someone who constantly forgets to include you in important plans, or conveniently fails to pass along critical information that could benefit you? At first, these incidents might seem random, harmless oversights maybe. But when it keeps happening with the same person over and over, it's time to stop making excuses for them and start recognizing the truth. One of the most alarming signs of genuine hatred is when someone subtly works against your progress. These people don't shout or argue. They don't openly oppose you. Instead, they operate in silence, charming on the surface, while quietly dismantling your foundation behind closed doors. Their tactics are not only deliberate, but often expertly disguised as concern, helpfulness, or simple forgetfulness. To the outside world, they appear cooperative, even supportive. But beneath the mask, they are orchestrating delays, planting doubts, and waiting for you to trip, sometimes setting the trap themselves. Let me give you a clearer picture. When someone simply disagrees with you, they usually voice their concern directly. They'll challenge your idea, offer feedback, and perhaps even propose a better solution. That kind of opposition, while uncomfortable, is honest. But someone who harbors hidden hatred plays a different game. They'll smile and nod while you speak, then undermine your credibility when you're not around. In a work setting, they might offer to help with a task just to gain access to sensitive information. Or they'll take on an important responsibility only to conveniently drop the ball at a critical moment. Even worse, they may repackage your hard work and present it as their own in front of those who matter most. This isn't limited to professional settings. In your personal life, these individuals can become chaos creators. They might manipulate your romantic partner with misleading comments, or stir conflict among your friends using half-truths or old memories designed to humiliate. Their words are carefully crafted to cause harm without ever appearing malicious. It's emotional sabotage, and they're often experts at it. With the rise of social media, their reach becomes even wider. These people might consistently ignore your achievements while actively supporting others with similar successes. They'll leave vague comments under your posts that seem positive at first glance, but carry a subtle undercurrent of criticism or doubt. If you experience a setback, they'll highlight it just enough to draw attention. Yet, when you thrive, they go silent. Why do they operate this way? Because direct confrontation would expose them. They want to keep their image clean while slowly chipping away at yours. They thrive on being seen as the kind one, the innocent one, while your confidence crumbles and your relationships fray. And the most chilling part, they genuinely enjoy your downfall. Your failure feeds their sense of control. Your suffering validates their silent campaign against you. The effects can be difficult to trace at first. You'll notice people treating you differently, avoiding you, or questioning things you never shared publicly. Job offers vanish. Friends grow distant. Rumors start spreading, but you can't quite find the source. All of this leads to confusion, self-doubt, and eventually isolation. Recognizing this pattern for what it is, targeted sabotage driven by hatred, is the first step toward protecting yourself. It's not about being paranoid. It's about being observant. If someone repeatedly derails your progress, manipulates your social circle, or subtly erodes your confidence, it's not a coincidence. It's a signal. And if you can identify it early, you can save yourself years of unnecessary pain. This is only the first of 5 warning signs that reveal genuine hatred. Stay alert, because each sign builds a clearer picture. And when you learn to recognize them, you'll never be caught off guard again. There was someone I once knew who always seemed to appear during people's worst moments. Whenever someone experienced heartbreak, a layoff, a family issue, this person would suddenly re-emerge full of sympathy and warmth, always ready to lend a shoulder to cry on. On the surface, they looked like the ideal friend, compassionate, dependable, caring. But if you observed closely, something about it didn't quite add up. At first glance, their reaction seemed appropriate, but those who paid attention started to notice a strange pattern. Whenever someone shared joyful news, a promotion, a new relationship, a personal victory, this person's smile didn't reach their eyes. There was a barely visible flicker of disappointment before they masked it with polite enthusiasm. But when someone shared a personal loss or struggle, their entire energy shifted. They became fully engaged, leaning in, asking questions with eyes that lit up, not with concern, but with something that resembled delight. This is the second sign of genuine hatred. They take pleasure in your pain, not in an obvious or theatrical way. It's not about someone being briefly envious or momentarily indifferent. It's a deeper, more unsettling truth. They feel emotionally energized by your suffering, and they try but fail to hide it. This behavior often escapes notice because it hides behind a facade of empathy. But true empathy is quiet, grounding, and consistent. It seeks to understand, to support, and to ease your burden. A truly compassionate person will listen with sincerity, offer meaningful help, and remain calm and present, regardless of whether you're thriving or struggling. But a person who secretly despises you behaves very differently. When something bad happens to you, their curiosity becomes insatiable. They'll ask for excessive details, not to help, but to indulge in the drama. Their voice becomes livelier, their questions more probing, and you may find yourself feeling worse after the conversation, not better. It's not comfort they're offering. It's subtle extraction fuel for their inner satisfaction. Even if their words sound kind, there's often something in the delivery that feels hollow. You may notice a faint smile that doesn't belong, or that their voice picks up energy when talking about your failure, but goes dull when you speak about your dreams. They may say things like, "I knew this was going to happen," or "I had a feeling something was off," in a tone that suggests confirmation rather than concern. They present themselves as the wise, observant friend, but in truth, they've been rooting for your fall. These are not people who simply lack emotional intelligence. These are people who derive actual enjoyment from your misfortune. And social media has made their patterns even easier to spot. When you share a success, they are noticeably absent. No comment. No like, not even a mention. But when you post about struggles, they're suddenly front and center, quick to comment, often saying things that subtly highlight your vulnerability. They might tag others, share a relevant article about failure, or leave comments that sound supportive on the surface, but feel condescending underneath. You might also notice their eagerness to compare your pain with their own victories. If you're going through a breakup, they might post about how grateful they are for their wonderful partner. If you're struggling financially, they might suddenly talk about a recent promotion or purchase under the guise of being happy for themselves, but clearly timed to contrast your hardship. This reaction pattern is not about jealousy, it's about hostility disguised as politeness. The emotional high they get from your low points exposes a deeper truth. They are not neutral observers. They are invested in your downfall. And their ability to mask that with well-timed words and carefully performed concern is what makes them so dangerous. So the next time you feel that something is off in someone's reaction to your pain, don't dismiss it. Don't brush off the sense that their support feels a little too enthusiastic or their sympathy too rehearsed. These subtle signals often reveal the real story, and recognizing them early can protect your peace, your progress, and your sense of self from those who want to see you fall but will never say it out loud. What I'm about to share with you next may be the most destructive and insidious tactic used by someone who truly hates you. This isn't just about rude behavior, passive aggression, or the occasional insult. This is something much more dangerous, something that targets the very foundation of your life, your relationships. This is the third sign of genuine hatred, and it's one of the hardest to detect until the damage has already been done. Someone who harbors deep resentment towards you will often try to dismantle your support system piece by piece. Their goal is simple: leave you isolated, confused, and emotionally exposed. And they do it in such a subtle, calculated way that most people don't see it coming until they've already lost important connections. They don't come out and say, "Don't trust that person." That would be too obvious. Instead, they wear a mask of kindness and concern. They present themselves as someone who only wants what's best for others. They befriend your friends, charm your family, and earn the confidence of your coworkers. And once they're embedded in your circle, they begin their quiet campaign. How? By spreading carefully crafted doubts. They won't accuse you outright, they'll imply. They'll say things like, "I've noticed she's been a little off lately," or "I'm worried he might be taking on too much and not thinking clearly." These comments sound innocent, even thoughtful, but underneath, they're strategically designed to erode the trust others have in you. What makes this especially dangerous is the way they mix facts with distortion. They might take something true about you, a decision you made, a conflict you had, a personal struggle, and twist it ever so slightly. They remove the context that would explain your actions or intentions, and instead insert their own narrative. They often act reluctant to share this information, which makes it seem even more authentic. "I probably shouldn't be saying this," they'll whisper, "but I just want you to be aware." They create what psychologists call triangulation. They become the filter through which information flows between you and others. They relay conversations, sometimes altered, sometimes completely fabricated. They manipulate how you're perceived while keeping their hands clean. You start to notice that people are pulling away from you, but you don't understand why. You haven't done anything wrong, at least nothing that warrants this kind of withdrawal. Here's an example: you might confide in someone about a stressful situation, only to find out later that your words were repeated out of context. Or someone close to you starts acting distant and cold after spending time with the very person who secretly despises you. You might even hear secondhand comments like, "I heard you were struggling," when you never shared that with anyone except the manipulator. Over time, your name becomes attached to uncertainty and suspicion. People stop inviting you to things. Conversations grow shallow. Colleagues don't involve you in important projects. Friends question your behavior based on whispers they can't quite trace back to a source. And the more isolated you become, the more vulnerable you are, exactly what the saboteur wanted. Why do they do this? Because people who hate you but can't confront you directly will instead try to destroy the parts of your life that keep you grounded. They want you disconnected from your allies. They want your confidence shaken and your social footing unstable. They know that when you're cut off from your strongest relationships, you're easier to manipulate, easier to break, and easier to control. So how do you protect yourself? By staying connected to the people who matter. If someone starts behaving differently towards you, talk to them directly. Don't rely on secondhand accounts or speculate about what's going on. Ask honest questions. Share your own perspective. Create space for open dialogue even if it feels uncomfortable. It's also critical to observe patterns over time. One-off misunderstandings happen, but when several people in your life begin pulling away after interacting with the same individual, it's a red flag. Trust your instincts. Notice how someone talks about others when they're with you, because that's exactly how they'll talk about you when you're gone. Remember, this form of covert relational sabotage is incredibly powerful, but only if it goes unnoticed. Once you recognize it, you can take steps to prevent the damage. You can reestablish your connections, clear the air, and protect your reputation before it's rewritten by someone who never deserved your trust in the first place. This isn't just about being cautious. It's about preserving your inner circle and defending your peace from those who seek to dismantle it from the inside out. What I'm about to reveal may change the way you see certain people forever. It dives into a dark corner of human behavior that often goes unnoticed, even though it's happening right in front of us. Once you understand this next sign, you'll be able to spot a hidden form of hostility that disguises itself as admiration, but is rooted in something far more unsettling. This is the fourth sign that someone truly hates you. They copy you, but with the intent to surpass you. This isn't simple flattery or admiration. It's a deeper, more obsessive pattern that reflects internal resentment and a desire to beat you at your own game. When someone resents you deeply, they often study you more closely than a fan would. They observe the way you dress, speak, work move, and even interact with others. On the surface, it may look like they're trying to follow in your footsteps, but the real goal isn't to become like you. It's to become better than you. Their mission is to outperform you in every domain you occupy, not because they value those pursuits, but because they're consumed by the need to eclipse you. What makes this behavior so psychologically twisted is that it's driven not by inspiration, but by envy disguised as competition. People who admire others tend to borrow ideas and make them their own, adding their unique touch. But someone who secretly despises you will mimic your behavior down to the details while making strategic changes designed to give the impression that their version is more refined, more impressive, or more desirable. They don't just borrow, they compete, and they compete in ways that feel strangely personal. They might take credit for your original ideas, especially in front of mutual connections, framing your creative work as something they independently thought of. They may adopt your business model or creative approach, tweak a few things, and then present it as entirely their own. You'll begin to notice a recurring pattern as soon as you share something new, whether it's a style choice, a personal milestone, or a professional goal they follow. But instead of acknowledging influence, they act as if you're the one playing catch-up. This type of behavior isn't about friendly competition. It's about psychological one-upmanship. They might suddenly become interested in something you're passionate about, only to try to master it faster or gain more recognition. They could start wearing clothing similar to yours, but with flashier labels or added accessories to make themselves seem more fashionable or successful. They might chase the same career opportunities, not because it aligns with their interests, but simply to prove they can reach or surpass your level. Eventually, it begins to feel like someone is attempting to live a parallel version of your life, one where they are the improved model. And instead of supporting your growth, they're invested in beating you to every milestone. What's most disturbing is how they weaponize your identity against you. They take your originality, your ideas, your aesthetic, your values, and attempt to absorb them into their own persona. And if you push back or assert your individuality, they may even accuse you of being the imitator. In their distorted reality, your very existence becomes a threat to the identity they've built around trying to overshadow you. It becomes clear that this person no longer sees you as another human being. You're now a benchmark, a mirror they can't stop comparing themselves to. And this obsession with outperforming you slowly consumes their identity. They stop building a life for themselves and start building a performance designed not for fulfillment, but for revenge. At its core, this behavior reveals a profound psychological imbalance. Instead of using your success as motivation for their own self-development, they adopt a combative stance, turning your life into a blueprint they're determined to improve upon and claim. And in doing so, they lose sight of who they really are. Their hatred transforms into a fixation that governs their choices, goals, and even their sense of self-worth. So if you start noticing someone who constantly mirrors your steps, yet always tries to position themselves one step ahead, pay attention. It may not be coincidence. It may be a silent competition you never agreed to join. And the sooner you see it for what it is, the sooner you can disengage, reclaim your path, and stop feeding the imitation. Because your life isn't a stage for someone else's performance. It's your own to define. Take a moment and bring to mind the people in your life. Picture each one individually. As their faces appear in your thoughts, pay close attention to the emotional shift that happens inside you. Some individuals might spark feelings of joy, ease, or warmth. Others might feel neutral, a calm presence that doesn't stir much, but certainly doesn't harm. And then, there are those few who, even in memory, trigger tension. Just imagining a conversation with them feels heavy. Your chest tightens. Your energy dips. That reaction isn't irrational. It's not just in your head. It's your nervous system sounding the alarm. This is the fifth and final sign that someone may genuinely hate you. Your energy plummets every time you interact with them. These aren't isolated incidents or temporary mood swings. They're part of a deeper pattern. Over time, you start to notice that something about your interactions with this person always leaves you feeling worse, even if nothing overtly negative happened. This kind of emotional depletion is often subtle. The person in question may appear polite, supportive, or even caring on the surface. But after spending time with them, you feel emotionally foggy, self-conscious, drained, or even inexplicably ashamed. You might replay the conversation in your head, trying to understand why you walked away feeling worse. And here's the key. It's not the words themselves that damage you. It's the energy behind them. People who secretly resent you or harbor deep dislike often operate beneath the radar of open hostility. They don't insult you directly. Instead, they inject negativity into your psyche through indirect means, word choices, tone of voice timing, or dismissive body language. They might lace their conversations with subtle digs, camouflaged as compliments. "You're so brave to wear," that they might say. Or, "You've done pretty well for someone with your background." These comments look harmless at first glance, but you walk away feeling small. This is psychological erosion, and it happens slowly, with precision. You might begin to doubt yourself. You second-guess your memories, your feelings, your responses. They may casually bring up things you've told them in confidence, often during moments when it will hurt most. They might reference past failures, missteps, or wounds that you've long since healed from yet still feel sensitive about. And they'll do it with a nonchalant tone, as if they're just making conversation. But deep down, you know better. The reason this kind of person makes you feel like you're walking on eggshells is because you are. You begin to monitor your words carefully, trying not to give them any more ammunition to use later. You might hold back parts of yourself. You become hesitant, overly cautious, always bracing for an invisible blow. And yet to everyone else, this person seems perfectly kind, maybe even helpful, which makes it even harder to explain what's really happening. That's the genius and cruelty of their method. They know that direct confrontation would expose them. So instead, they chip away at your confidence quietly. Over time, their emotional manipulation makes you believe you're the issue. You'll think, maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm overreacting. That's exactly what they want, to destabilize your inner compass so that you stop trusting yourself. But your intuition doesn't lie. When someone consistently leaves you feeling mentally and emotionally empty, despite wearing a smile or offering support, you're not imagining it. That tightness in your stomach, that sudden fatigue, that vague sense of shame or confusion, these are real signs. Your body recognizes the threat, even if your conscious mind hasn't caught up yet. And here's the dangerous part. The longer you stay in contact with someone like this, the more your self-esteem erodes. You may start silencing your voice in other relationships. You may start shrinking in areas of your life where you once stood tall. Because that person has planted seeds of doubt and watered them slowly until you no longer recognize the garden you once grew within yourself. To protect your peace, you must begin listening to how your energy responds to people, not just what they say or how they appear to others. If someone constantly leaves you feeling small, confused, anxious, or invisible, take that feeling seriously. Distance is not cruelty, it's self-preservation. When you honor the discomfort, instead of dismissing it, you reclaim your clarity. And when you walk away from someone who poisons your spirit behind a mask of politeness, you're not being mean, you're being free. Trust that instinct. It's your first line of defense against quiet hatred masquerading as friendship. Now that you've recognized these 5 clear signs of genuine hatred, you hold something powerful: awareness. But insight alone won't change anything unless you act on it. If you've seen these red flags in someone close to you and still allow them to remain in your life unchecked, the damage won't stop. It will only deepen. Imagine knowing that someone is sabotaging your efforts, celebrating your missteps, isolating you from the people you love, copying you out of envy, and draining your spirit every time they're near, and still choosing to keep them close. That's like knowingly drinking from a poisoned cup, just because you're afraid to be impolite. Protecting yourself starts with one simple decision. Trust what your intuition has been telling you all along. Limit their access. Stop sharing your plans, your emotions, your vulnerability. You don't need their validation. You don't need to win them over. You need to protect your peace. Sometimes that means cutting ties entirely. Other times it means keeping them at a distance while maintaining clear boundaries. You decide how far they get to come, but never forget that access to your life is a privilege, not a right. Recovery from this kind of hidden abuse takes time. Focus on the people who lift you up, not those who leave you feeling smaller. Rebuild your confidence by reconnecting with what matters most: your values, your goals, your truth. And most importantly, stop silencing your instincts to avoid conflict. Being kind doesn't mean tolerating destruction. If something in today's message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share your experience. And if you found this content helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more insights like this every week. Your support truly means the world.